Design Center. We want to be your jeweler for life.
Big Show Breakdown, SkylineSportsMT.com. Brooks Nuanez chiming in now here for Rivalry 2.0. Montana at Montana State. Second time they've played. Last time they played twice in the season, 1913. They used to do this 2 times a year between 1908 and 1913. That was before they had these big, huge leagues. This is back when the teams were playing like 6 or 7 games a year, but never happened in the postseason. So certainly a historical moment. How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I didn't really anticipate this, let's say back in August, that we'd be going Cat Griz twice in a month, but everyone has opportunities in life, and we're about to seize one that's going to be pretty special.
Let's start there. I know for the fans, this is just inevitably the biggest thing and game that's ever happened ever, and everybody's so juiced about it, and everybody's so mad about the tickets, et cetera, et cetera. To me, playing twice in the span of 27 days, like, I expect a great game on Saturday. It almost seems anticlimactic, though, because, like, the whole point of it is for it to be a once-a-year sort of culmination. It's like a coronation and a culmination at the same time, and then the teams get to, like, move on into their own paths and see who can go the farthest after whatever the result of the game is, whatever it might be. So I'm like struggling to think of, like, things to talk about and things to preview, because the matchups are largely the same, although there's a few things that are different, and we'll get into those. But anticlimactic is the wrong word. It seems like there's less to speculate and prognosticate, because we saw these teams play and we know exactly what they were then and what they are now, and the trajectories that they're on and the strengths and the weaknesses and all that stuff. So it's not as much of like, oh man, I wonder how this is going to go. It's more like, we kind of know how this is going to go. Who's going to adjust?
Yeah, I very much agree. I've been looking for the word too, Colter, and we'll find it maybe by game time at 2 o'clock on Saturday. What the word, because it's anticlimactic. It's insanely, this is kind of a peak of something that would be climactic, something that would be amazing. But also, I agree with you that there's this piece of the pie here that says this is kind of the national championship, but it's not. There's this piece of the pie here that says there's been 5 blowouts in a row, and we finally get a really good game in Missoula, where the Griz put up a really, really good fight, but the Cats come in, away team wins for the first time in a half decade, and you think, man, we finally got one. Iron sharpens iron. Both teams will learn from this. They'll both make deep playoff runs and maybe meet in the national championship, and yet we have to stop before then and play a semifinal game in Bozeman. So anticlimactic, definitely not the word. But for me, when I think about this game, I think of one thing. You either do it or you don't. And that's kind of, when it comes down to the matchups, it comes down to who's the best player, got a little bit of an advantage in maybe one scheme or another. I really think it comes down to what we would kind of call nut cutting time, right? Like, you either do it or you don't, and this is it. Like, you either go take this win, or you're going to go home a loser.
Would it surprise you to see a blowout in this game?
No. That's the unfortunate part. That's the part that probably feels a little bit anticlimactic. I could see either team blowing each other out.
Right.
Just the moment is huge. At this point in the season, it's been 3 of the toughest football games I've really watched for the Montana Grizzlies, as far as the physicality and the hitting. When you go Cats, South Dakota State, South Dakota, I mean, these are banger games. Like, you're just going to go do another one? Of course, this is the playoffs. The FCS at this high level, you're going to have to go through the Dakota schools. You're going to have to go play North Dakota State. You're going to have to play at this level. But you can get banged up, and it can wear on you. And for the Cats, we've seen them have some internal struggle. We've seen them, rack up some penalties and have what you call a little internal fighting or conflict. Maybe it's for the better, maybe it's for the worse, but it's definitely happening. Those things could lead to an overwhelming Montana Grizzly win, just due to the momentum that they carry, especially offensively. So it wouldn't surprise me, and that's probably the unfortunate part. Are we lucky enough, or are we quote unquote blessed enough to find ourselves in another close 3-point game coming down to the wire, 1 possession left in the fourth quarter? I mean, sign me up if we get a chance to.
There was so much momentum that built for both sides leading up to this, because I think that it was very clear at the midpoint of the year that these were the 2 best teams, not only in the Big Sky, but probably in the country. And there's this incremental build to then this like crazy collision. And that was the hardest hitting game I've ever seen in my however many years doing this. Is there another level? Like, I think that people are expecting, like, oh, now it's for all the marbles to go to Nashville. So it's even going to be even crazier. It's going to be even harder hitting and more intense. I don't know if you can take it to a higher level than what they had in Missoula on November 22nd.
I don't think so. I mean, of course, there'll be moments where you can find another level. Of course, there'll be plays that replicate kind of that feeling that we saw in Missoula. But I agree with you, Colter. I mean, I thought it was as hard, if not the hardest hitting game I've ever seen. The thing about this game is it might be a little bit more tactical. You know, that game is a street fight because you still have so much ahead of you. Both teams are going to get buys. Both teams are going into the playoffs no matter what happens in that game. So you can kind of let it all loose, get into a little bit of a street fight and say, you know, heck, first to 30 wins this game. But in the playoffs, it might be a little bit more tactical. There might be a little bit more, hey, we're going to hold the ball. We're going to milk the clock a little bit. We've seen teams do that to Montana State, or at least try to, you know, figure out a way to keep the ball out of an explosive offense's hands and try to mitigate the defense that's just so swarming by kind of just playing ball control, trying to keep the score low. I'm not saying Montana's going to do that by any means, but that's an example of something that you could maybe put your influence on the game by going in with a different game plan. So again, I could see this game being a touch more tactical, a little bit less of just a knockdown street fight, and two teams that are going to try to use kind of the institutional brain power to push this thing to the natty. Because sure, you can get into a street fight and there might be parts, there might be quarters, there might be that middle eight or maybe the fourth quarter that do look reminiscent of that. But I do think that a smart team would probably take a different strategy into this game.
You and I have been to 100 plus games at Washington Grizzly Stadium and probably close to 100 games at Bobcat Stadium. Have you seen Bobcat Stadium evolve and change over the years? And what do you think of just the environment that Montana is going to encounter on Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, it might, Colton, be the biggest change in this rivalry, honestly. I think that Washington Grizzly Stadium is second to none, not only in this region but in the country. I mean, I think that you can ask anyone who comes nationally. You know, we had some folks come from South Dakota that wrote, you know, an opinion piece on what they thought of the Mecca of FCS football, whether you like that name or not. We've had a lot of folks come nationally from syndicated review websites and all these kind of things, right, that say this is the real deal. This is up there with those FBS schools. This is up there with the Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan. Of course, those are 100,000 person stadiums, but this is only 27,000. But I think you guys are understanding what I'm saying here is that Washington Grizzly is the realest deal. I mean, it is deafening. It is such a crazy home field advantage. The way that the stadium is set up with just the tight sidelines, it's tighter than anyone will ever say. You say it's tight, it's undescribable how tight it is. Bobcat Stadium, as you know, the Cats have broke the streak in the early 2000s after 16 straight losses and continue to kind of grow as an institution. The institution grows, the athletic department continues to gain some momentum. Football has gotten at a very high level after, the run that Jeff Choate went on, now into Brent Vegan, multiple semifinals, multiple national championship appearances. The biggest improvement in the entire rivalry might be Bobcat Stadium. I mean, the place formerly known as the Litter Box, you could still call it that. I mean, I think it's a pretty cute and fun poke at a rival. It has changed so much. There was times where there would be 20,000 people in there, and I could have a conversation with the person sitting next to me on the field. It was not overwhelmingly loud. It was not that it was necessarily docile, because 20,000 people, of course, creates energy, but it couldn't hold a candle to Washington Grizzly Stadium and what the Grizz were doing as far as the atmosphere goes. It was not even close to the same. And that's completely flipped on its head. It is extremely loud and extremely raucous. And, the biggest upgrade is closing that south end zone. That's what Washington Grizzly is so perfectly engineered. The Hellgate Canyon, Mount Sentinel right next to it, the acoustics and the way it just plays off of itself. it doubles the noise. It makes that 27,000 feel like 60,000 just due to just the way it's set up. And with the horseshoe in Bozeman, it's always had that open-ended, I guess it's the north end zone, that open-ended, air flows out of it, sound escapes it. Well, they close it off with the Bobcat Athletic Complex, and then they add new stadium seating in that end zone, and then they put in this revolutionary scoreboard, which people who have seen it don't think that I'm gushing here. It is unbelievable. It is like some of those new modern music venues. I haven't been to the Sphere, but this has a complete different feel when you look up into that end zone. That scoreboard is crazy. It is so bright. It is so dynamic. It is so big. It creates this monster of a home field advantage. And, I mean, I don't tailgate because I'm working. I don't know what the parking lots look like compared to what they are in Missoula. I've walked through them both. They both look like they're having a good time. But when it comes to the actual in-stadium, Bobcat Stadium used to be quiet, and now it literally jumps. That place is deafening, and the energy and electricity that it builds is a whole new thing, man. And I mean, I don't need to be to bloviate about it, but it's changed so much, and it gives the Cats, which has already been a big home field advantage, an even bigger home field advantage.
Montana State's won 47 out of their last 49 since the beginning of the 2019 season. Their only losses, Sac State homecoming loss in October of 2019, North Dakota State in the playoffs in 23, and then South Dakota State in week 2 of this season. Pretty impressive what they've been able to get done at home. Is that a concern if you're Montana, the fact that you haven't played any hostile environments this year? I mean, you played 14 games and you've played 10 of them at home, and then the other 4 were at Weber State and Idaho State and wherever the heck else you played at on the road this year. Is that a concern if you're Montana going into that environment and then not having played anything close to it?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be a concern. It's a different environment, right? I mean, it's going to be loud and it's going to be hostile, as you mentioned. One thing that I've talked about, Colter, throughout this year is, especially in Cat Griz in Missoula, it's loud all the time. It's not like it's quiet on offense. It's not like Keely Ayat's not operated under the stadium doesn't just go silent when the Grizz are on offense, especially in Cat Griz. So there is that pressure, there is that energy, yet you're riding with that energy that you feel is yours, and it's people who have your back. But this is a tough team. I think that they'll be able to harness any kind of energy, mostly for the positive. But will it be different? Yes. I mean, 10 games at home, that's a huge advantage for what the Montana Grizzlies schedule has put, kind of rolled into. But I do think that they'll be more prepared than, gosh darn, any team, right? I mean, South Dakota State is that stadium is not loud. I know South Dakota plays in a dome. I know North Dakota State gets loud, but none of these places are like Montana or Montana State. And the fact that the Grizz play in one of those regularly, it at least will temper some of those really challenging aspects of playing in a hostile environment.
Great game out there today, boys. That was awesome.
Yes, sir.
Hey, guys, check it out. We got the new 5th quarter jerseys and a note from Tommy. Tommy says, best of luck this season, and remember to keep the 5th quarter tradition alive. Whoa! Hey, guys, look. We made it to the R-Bar.
I'm already ready to go.
Our plays are on fire today, boys.
Yeah, so these wings. And the drinks are secured.
Cheers to our bar. 5th quarter.
Meet the MSU players here at the R-Bar after every home game.
Cash One Pawn, Missoula's #1 pawn shop.
You want money? We got money. You need money? We got money. We're cash.
Do yourself a favor and make Cash One Pawn part of your online shopping habits. Cash One Pawn has an awesome online inventory, everything from firearms to power tools to speaker equipment to jewelry. Visit Cash One Pawn today.
Cash One Pawn.
8720 Roller Coaster Road, CashOnePawn.com.
Hello, my name is Kelly Ayat, quarterback at the University of Montana. In the off-season, it's important to do everything you can to prepare for the season. In high school, that means funding your program. In my experience, Vertical Raise is the ultimate online fundraiser platform. They'll broaden your reach of your fundraiser and bring in more money than other platforms. And there are no sneaky or hidden fees like other companies. If you're trying to raise money for your program, reach out to Vertical Raise today.
Nuanez here on the Big Sky Breakdown, probably presented in part by the R-Bar. R-Bar's hosting us on Friday. I'll do my Nuanez Now ESPN radio show between 4 and 6 on Friday, so come hang out with us if you'd like to partake in some more rivalry talk. Ty Gregorak's going to be riding shotgun with me for at least part of the show, so looking forward to that. We'll also have interviews from both sides of the rivalry, too, so swing on down the R-Bar between 4 and 6 on Friday, and after the game, the fifth quarter, as always, at the R-Bar. Appreciate Mike and the boys for putting us up, and we'll see you at the R-Bar Friday night, certainly, and probably after the game on Saturday as well, no matter what happens. Appreciate the R-Bar for their continued support. What we got going on here at Skyline Sports. Injuries, not really any crazy major ones other than J.J. Dolan getting knocked out against the Griz for Montana State. Interested to see how they handle some of those guys that got dinged last week for the Cats. Taden Gray looked like he got knocked out pretty good. Adam Jones, same deal. So are those guys limited? Are those guys available? I'm unsure. For the Griz, Brooks Davis has been nursing a shoulder. Keon Loud's been nursing a shoulder, but nothing crazy there either. And, Micah Harper, I don't know what's up with him, but he looks a little bit slow sometimes. But, yeah, he's been playing a ton of reps too. And other than that, I think everybody's pretty much by and large healthy. But if there are guys that are banged up, which team do you think can handle it better from a depth perspective? Will depth play in this game on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, I think it absolutely will. The Griz have cultivated it all year. I mean, Montana State is crazy deep, too. They don't roll the same amount of guys that the Griz have throughout this year. Bobby's done that the last, throughout most of his career, but I think he's done it more recently just due to some recent experiences in the playoffs, being a little bit dinged up and needing to have that depth. He talked about it in the press conference. Coach Houck mentioned that they won't practice a ton this week as far as padding up and hitting, a lot of walkthrough, a lot of film, that kind of stuff, just due to being banged up and playing all those physical games, which I mentioned on the top. Super, super physical brands of football that the Griz have played the last 3 weeks, but that's no different from the Cats. And you got to assume for Montana State that all those guys will be available, but it's whether or not you can play at a full capacity. I do think it does play at this time of year who can stay healthy. And it's not about going into the game healthy. It's about being able to mitigate those dings throughout the game. It's about Paul Brock trying to keep that ankle out of harm's way. Do you limit his reps in the first half and try to get him deep in the second half without a tweak? I mean, you can speak to this, Colter. When was the last game that Paul Brock played where he didn't tweak that ankle? I mean, it's been a month.
Messed up against Northern Colorado, and that was 6 games ago. So it's been a while.
He's hopped off every single game pretty much. And if anyone who's had a true ankle or a high ankle, which gets into the leg area, kind of deals with the tib fib and the ligaments that keep that whole lower leg structure together. I mean, it's a long time injury. It's a 3-monther kind of thing. And, he hasn't missed a beat as far as suiting up for games. I think he missed 1, right? He sat out 1 game, but it's guys like that you expect to go through warmups and jump in the first quarter. You don't worry about the availability of guys, but you worry about it throughout the game, especially we talked about, will a team try to mitigate some of the physicality and play a more tactical game? Either way, I mean, God, it's going to be crazy physical. These teams are such physical teams. The Cats have been all year, and the Griz as well, but are peaking in a different way. I mean, Montana has carried so much momentum through their physicality on defense that their defense took got to a whole new level in the last month or so, with Cat Griz and then leading into these next 2 playoff games. I mean, they're playing at a completely different level when it comes to physicality. We can talk about individual players and guys that have really risen to the occasion for Montana, but man, it'll be a physical game. What do you think about kind of that depth of injury and how much it'll affect this game?
Well, I mean, I think that the main factor is Keon Loud because he's back, and that's a huge player that is back. I also am so interested to see because Loud is touted as one of the best, if not the best players on that Griz defense. He hasn't seen anybody as good as the Bobcat receivers, really, because he was out when they played, Idaho State and Montana State the first time. There's a couple other guys maybe in the league that could have tested him, but he was out those games. So he's been so great, but how does he manage it when he's going against Taco Dowler? Like Taco Dowler's better than the guys that he's gone against. But I the Paul Brott being dinged thing hurts him just because he just can't get across the face as easily and cause as much havoc as he wants to cause. I'm wondering this. We had 7 matchup stories before the first rivalry game. We talked about Ayotte and Lamson each making their first rivalry starts. We talked about the Griz offensive line, which had been a little shaky, but has been better the last several weeks against the Cat defensive front. We talked about the Griz offense versus the Cat defense. We talked about the Cat offense versus the Griz defense. Bobby Houck versus Brent Deegan. The young Cat corners versus the really salty Griz receivers. What, if any, of the matchups in your mind has changed? Like what is there a matchup that we highlighted last time that looks different now than what it did the first time around?
Well, I mean, I do think that if Keon Loud is playing at a high level, which I think that we all agree that's opened up a lot of their ability to get after the passer. I mean, they're able to bring pressure with more confidence just due to not getting, beat over the top as much. I mean, I think a lot of coaches throughout the year continue to talk about, well, we were successful in the pass game because we knew that's what they were going to give us that, or we were at least going to have a chance at that. I think that as Keon Loud, steps up and improves, their defense, I think that they're able to bring a ton of pressure. So, that's Peyton Wing, that's Caleb Otluski, that's Solomon Tuliapupu. I mean, those guys are playing at a whole different level just with the freedom to get downhill and blow up blockers. And those guys are playing at a really high level. So I do think that matchup has probably changed. You got to assume that Justin Lamson continues to, stay efficient and become, a more dialed quarterback. Even when, they maybe aren't beating a team 55-10, they're still putting up huge point totals, and he's still being kind of that field general. And you assume, the classic Bobby Houck line, you get better at football by playing football. You assume like a guy like him week after week is going to continue to improve. So.
Well, and the Yale threw a cover 3 shell defense against him a little bit, and that made him operate really inefficiently. And that's the first time he's really done that since Mercyhurst. He was so efficient during conference play. But the thing about the Griz is a lot of times they say, the best ideas in football are just stolen. The Griz don't do that though. Like defensively, like they don't do something that someone else did and then like put it in for this week because it's had success against this team. They just run the Casino Royale and just bring the heat, and that's it. And that's what they do. And so that is the one matchup, though, I am interested in there's a couple, but the one I'm interested in is do they do anything to mitigate the quarterback run game? Because that is one thing that Montana State put in specifically to exploit the lack of gap soundness of the Griz defense. And that's not a criticism of the Griz defense. That's just inherently what it is. Bobby Houck would tell you straight to your face that they don't play gaps, that they don't have gap soundness in their defense. They just run to the ball and hit you. That's what they try to do. But that quarterback, I don't even know if you'd call it a draw or a power or what, but that scheme really helped Lamson get loose. That's one adjustment Montana could make, though, is do they put a spy on him? Do they have the nickel shading him, or do they have one of the inside linebackers with more attention on Lamson? Because I think that could really impact the way the Cats could run the ball.
Yeah, I mean, the Griz aren't, again, really set up to do that. I think they're going to kind of play Bam Bam Bigelow, explode the edge, knock blockers over. I mean, the last couple of weeks, the Griz have been making offensive lines look like bowling pins. I mean, there's just guys exploding all over the place, just getting ran through by blitzing linebackers. And I think Montana will kind of lean on the growth and development of that aspect of the game. It's really hard for someone like any of those 3 guys I mentioned as linebackers, especially Peyton Wing, to really play in a system where his assignment might be to cover a guy without the ball and not even be a part of the play. It doesn't really make sense for him as a player. It doesn't really make sense for them as a scheme. Would it be smart to do so? I think you should probably have a package in there. But as you mentioned, Colter, it's not something the Griz have really leaned on doing very much. And when you say gap soundness, it's not that they're ungap sound. It's that they don't have gap responsibility, right? There's no assigned gap. It's not that the gap is necessarily, compromised in any way. If you eliminate the gap, which has kind of been their MO the last couple of weeks, then the responsibility becomes, right in your face mask and the tackle is being made. But, I think it's an interesting scheme to say that, hey, there's 11 gaps on the field and we're going to try to eliminate 3 or 4 of them. And then, then you have 7 guys for 6 gaps and you're playing at an advantage. And, that's something that Montana's done really well this last month. So will they add that in? I'd be surprised, but I do think that it's a point of emphasis that you bring light to. That's probably going to be maybe the catalyst in the game.
Brooks Nuanez joining us here on the Big Sky Breakdown. We'll be doing a special ESPN College Game Day show live from Town and Country Foods right on the Montana State campus. Town and Country Foods, 100% employee-owned. They have 9 locations serving Montana. And a reminder to all fans to stop by their stores located across from Montana State University for everything you need on game day. Brooks and I go to Town and Country pretty much every time we ever cover a Bobcat game. The breakfast burritos are like one of my favorite things in all of Bozeman. They're so cheap and they're so delicious, but you got to get there early to get them because they run out. They only make a certain amount because they make them fresh every single day. But love going to the TNC anytime we're covering anything Bobcats and getting yourself, Gatorade or a snack or some caffeine or whatever. Appreciate Town and Country. It's fun doing an ESPN show there. I'm excited to see Travis and the guys there and appreciate them for supporting our continued efforts. It seems like there's always like the cliche dynamic that after a huge win, you're going to have a letdown, or after a heartbreaking loss, you'll have an upswing. And so when we saw that for both Montana and Montana State in the second round, that was completely unsurprising. Like the fact that the Griz came out their hair on fire against South Dakota State and ripped them, that was not that surprising. The fact that Montana State came out and sort of went through the motions a little bit against Yale and had some, they didn't have the level of physicality that they had in previous games and all that, also unsurprising. But then that sort of carried over into the next week too. The Griz seem like they're just pissed and that the gloves are off and that they're we lost, we're never going to lose again. That's sort of like the mentality. Bobby Houck's been saying it since before the Bobcat game even started, basically. Like, hey, we're going to play these guys twice. Whatever happens this time, okay, we're going to play them again, though, for all the marbles, basically. Where then on the Montana State side of things, it's almost as if they've been sort of enduring to get to this point. I don't know if that means we're going to see another up level on Saturday or if they've already peaked because of their win in Missoula. What do you think? Did Montana State peak in Missoula, or how do they find the form that helped them just run through the Big Sky Conference this last year, but that has been a little bit absent, particularly against Yale in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not really anything but just the facts, right? I mean, when you watch Montana State the last 2 weeks, they aren't playing with a crazy amount of momentum. It's not like a team that's just confidence through the roof and they're just blowing the doors off people. 2 solid wins, and a win is a win in the playoffs, right? I mean, Yale, I think, was probably a better team than most of us thought.
Totally.
They had a couple guys that were just studs,
and they also just didn't care. Like if the Griz don't change anything about what they do compared to what they play because they just run a scheme and that's what they run. That's the style they play. Yale's the exact opposite. Like as soon as Xavier Aarons went down with that knee injury and they already knew Neil Daly was out with a sickness, Yale said, okay, we're basically running pin and pull right at the inside linebacker. We're going to give Pittsburgh the ball on every freaking play. Stop us. Your nose is beat up. You got 2 linebackers on the sidelines. There's no game plan. We're going our best player versus your weakness. Bring it. So credit to Yale in that circumstance. And then I know last week there'll be people saying, well, the Cats only punted once. They scored 44 points. It's true they did, and I thought they were efficient on offense. They were just so all over the place with the mistakes and the penalties. Like 12 penalties is a crazy amount of penalties on your home field, especially when you false start 7 times. And the other thing is we've just been accustomed to Brett Deegan's turning the ball over. Never. Like Tommy Millot threw like 5 or 6 picks in his whole career. Lampson threw 0 picks in Big Sky play. So when they do turn the ball over 1 or 2 times, it just looks different too, right? Like Montana State played and operated well enough last week to score 60, but they scored 44 because they had a turnover and a bunch of penalties and a bunch of other stuff that impacted just sort of the way that the game went. So I also think they just set such an incredibly high standard for themselves. So when they don't win 56-14, we're kind of like, huh. And I do think Stephen F. Austin deserves some credit there too. Like I thought that was a pretty decent team, but there has been like the Cats looked so freaking sharp from Eastern Washington through Montana, all 8 of their conference games. So then to see a couple lulls, it is a point of at least talking about it.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, you said it very well, Colter. There's one team in this upcoming game that's playing with a ton of momentum, and that's the Montana Grizzlies. So yeah, I mean, it's Montana State has everything in front of them, and it could be, in a sense, that Brent Vigen saw the momentum that they had, the effort that they were putting forward to go through and have an undefeated Big Sky slate, and said, hey, we need to rein it in a little bit here. We need to be smart and thoughtful about this. We need to play for the long game. We need to not pour everything out against Yale, not pour everything out against Stephen F. Austin.
That's a good point.
A little bit of trial and tribulation might help us in the long run to kind of, get ourselves, like we talk about with Montana at times, put yourself in kind of a funny situation. Maybe punt when you shouldn't punt, or go for it when you probably wouldn't go for it, just to kind of, test the mettle of your team a little bit. Brent Vigen's a smart enough guy that wouldn't surprise me right now. But that being said, I do think that there are some serious concerns. The penalties are a concern. Whatever you thought about Julius Davis and the blow up after the Yale game, whether you thought that was all love and only 2 people who trust each other can do that in public in front of a million people, whatever you thought of that, to go out in the next game and have 12 penalties, including a Julius Davis touchdown with the peace sign, is not a good look. I mean, there's just nothing about that that's promising for Montana State. You don't have that either of those instances happen and say these are learning experiences. First time, maybe. Second time, as it continues to build, this is not a learning experience. This is something that feels a little bit out of control. Do I expect Julius Davis to play with his hair on fire, but probably with his head on his shoulders? Yeah, I assume that him as a man is going to rise to the moment and probably not let that happen in this game. That being said, Montana is playing with so much house money right now as far as just the momentum. Like, they have so much confidence when the defense is playing with the Casino Royale and blowing things up, and then Keely Ayad is rolling like he is. I thought it was interesting last week. We talked a little bit about injuries, but I do think that Eli Gilman they probably put him on the back burner a little bit last week, just as a little bit of a preservation. I mean, Finotti was getting more carries. There was I can't remember the Jones kid had a carry in the first or second quarter where I was like, why is this guy in? Like, what is going on here?
So that was because Monty Gilman was out.
Right.
So Jones was basically the new Monty Gilman as that gadget guy that plays next to Wortham in the Wildcat.
I understood that. It was just interesting.
It was interesting. The other thing is that as much as we say that Montana doesn't change their defensive scheme, no matter what the matchup is, they have changed their offensive scheme based on matchup quite a bit this year. And that's why they were running that split back stuff. Because I think they knew that they couldn't just drive South Dakota off the ball with the interior guys that they had. I think that they knew that, like, their interior offensive line is the weakness of their team. And the South Dakota's defense is built from the inside out. So they were they're basically running like Gilman is almost a decoy. Like he was kind of just running like the inside dive to just push the pile and show them stuff and keep them honest. But then they would run the backside counter with Stevie Rocker, or Finotti got a couple counter plays, and even they ran power with him one time too. So I mean that was good coaching, and you wonder if Gilman is a little bit banged right now. And I mean, that's not uncommon when you talk about the 15th week of the season, for a guy that's had as many carries as he's had so far this year.
He tends to run behind his pads. Yeah, for whatever reason, it seems like he's a physical runner when I watch him. So I would imagine he's probably, sore from time to time.
Yeah.
So, I think the overall question here, Colter, is who's peaking? Who's got more momentum right now? And that's the Montana Grizzlies.
Yep.
Life can change in an instant. If you've been hurt in an accident, suffered from medical negligence, or are facing criminal charges, you don't have to face it alone. At Ryan Miller & Coburn, we're here to listen and fight for you. We're your neighbors, traveling across Montana to stand by your side as your link to justice. Real people, real help, right here in Montana. Ryan Miller & Coburn, your Montana attorneys.
Thanks so much for listening to the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series and for tuning into our Skyline Sports YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to both the podcast and all your various podcast hosting networks, and to the YouTube channel as well. Thanks to our great partners, including Ryan Miller and Coburn Law. Ryan Miller and Coburn are ace attorneys, each with different expertise. Paul Ryan, the master when it comes to DUIs. Angie Miller, excellent in medical malpractice. Abigail Coburn, federal drug charges. She's the one you want defending you. They can help in any and all sorts of criminal defense cases. They have a live answering service that's available 24 hours a day, 406-542-2233. You can also visit rmcattorneys.com. Ryan and Miller and Coburn, your Montana attorneys. Let's hear from RMC right now. How about just your connections to Missoula? What's kept you here for, most of your life, right?
Yeah, no, I love Missoula. I went to grade school, middle school, and high school here, and ultimately graduated from the University of Montana. My family's here, so many of my friends, people that I see. It's such a great feeling. I think people that know Missoula, whether you grew up here or whether you've moved here, they understand this is such a magical place. The people are so friendly. It's a safe place. I got to raise my daughter here, and just see the development of Missoula and its growth, which is great. But it's still small town to me. And I know, the places that I go, if I want to go get taco treat, I've been getting taco treat for probably 40 years, and that's where I want to go. But just so many friendly faces and people probably is what really keeps me here.
It is a testament to the program, though, because there was a time when I first started covering the Cats where a playoff game, any playoff game, it was a do or die situation, and you had to throw the entire kitchen sink at the other team. And if you didn't, even if you were at home, you were going to lose. And they lost at home to North Dakota State my very first year covering them in 2010. The following year, when they beat New Hampshire, it took a blocked extra point by Stephen Bethley, and it was like they won the Super Bowl. And that was to go to the quarterfinals. And then they went to Sam Houston State and got their asses kicked. And then the next year, they had to slug it out from the very beginning against Stony Brook. Miguel Masonette, the awesome running back that Stony Brook had. And still get to the quarters, fall short. Lose at home to Sam Houston. Well, fast forward now, 10 plus years, and you can run like a conservative game plan with rotating a bunch of guys and keep it pretty vanilla and still have a 17-point win in the quarterfinals to go to the semis. Because that's where Montana State's at, and that's also where everyone else is at too. So I do wonder that if the Griz basically managed the first 11 games of the year to then take the gloves off when the Cats came to town and keep them off until they lose, basically. The Cats just went pedal to the metal, get all gas, no brakes for the whole season, basically. And I wonder, I think it's a really good point you made. I wonder if Brett Deegan said, hey, let's reel this in just a little bit so then we can get back out and take it to the next level again.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was talk about the Montana State facing an illness that was breaking out among the team. And, those are the kind of things where you do tell the kid to sit out and make sure he's healthy. This game, everyone's in, it's like everyone's playing. It's like, it's a different thing when it comes to that. So we can't really say if Brent Vigen was doing that or not. It just kind of felt like that just by the eye test. When you watched it, it just looked a little different. And Montana, when you got a player like Ayat, who's, we'll talk about it after the season more and really, break down kind of where he lands on growth as well as a ceiling for a Montana Grizzly quarterback, because it's as much growth and as high of a ceiling as I think we've ever seen. When you have a guy like that and you get to this point of the season, it's kind of hard to not just let it rip, right? I think that putting any kind of reins on especially this offense, let alone the defense, putting any kind of reins on the program right now would be silly for Montana. Where for Montana State, I could see it being a tactic. So again, we don't know that for sure, but I do think that is something that may be, may be the case.
Ayat has taken it to another level. He's the first team all-league quarterback during the season, and he's been even better than that in the playoffs. Why? In your mind, what have you seen? What has he done that has got him to be – he looks like one of the best quarterbacks we've ever covered these last couple of weeks.
I don't even know if it looks like. I think that it's just the facts. He is one of the best quarterbacks we've ever covered. And why is that? He's a hooper, man. He's just an absolute baller. There's just no two ways about it. His command of what he's trying to get to has definitely got to a new level. I think Brett Pease.
Do you think being hurt helps him?
With his knee banged up? Yeah, I mean, I do.
He's not that hurt, but he knows that he can't really scramble around.
His knee, I mean, he's got a pretty big knee brace.
No, he does. Yeah, and I think it's a ligament sprain is what I've heard from internal sources. But I think he knows that he can't do the like jailbreak run around until you find somebody that's open thing anymore. He's just got to get it out.
Definitely.
And I think it actually gives him more trust in him. I think it gives Pease more trust in him. Because when
I agree.
you run the RPO stuff, he doesn't get stuck. He goes exactly where they want him to go with the ball. So there is none of this like freelancing riverboat gambler stuff, which I know it drives a lot of coaches crazy, but it especially drives these coaches crazy. He doesn't really have that right now. And that's why he's just like bing, bang, boom, balls out. And I also think that just mitigates their offensive line is way better than it was in the middle of the year. No question. It also just mitigates it so much because you don't have to block anybody when the ball is in Ayat's hands for 1.5 seconds and then Wortham has it in the middle of the field going one-on-one against the safeties. Everybody else is out of the play. So it doesn't matter if you can block anybody because those guys are out. They can't get to the play.
Yeah, no doubt. And I do think, Coach Houck has alluded to this a little bit, is you can get so deep in the game plan and so far down the call sheet when you're successful on first and second down. They're just not getting into third and long very much. They're operating in such a quick and efficient way that some of those short strikes to elite players like Michael Wortham turn into chunk plays just due to the momentum that it carries on the call sheet. You're getting into stuff that you really like, and then you can get back to stuff that really worked, and you can really scheme it up in the right way. When you're looking and you're seeing stuff, you can pivot and get to something different. You got the green dot, which has got to be a game changer for someone like Keely Ayat. There has never been sound in the quarterback's ear until this year, Colter. That last playoff run, there was the ability to, but you couldn't do it in the national championship. So I believe both schools did not have the green dot last year. You can have the green dot, which your coach is talking to you in your ears up to 15 seconds left on the game clock. Or on the play clock. That's a huge advantage for a young guy like this when they're trying to get into audibles and do different stuff. And Ayat's pre-snap as well as his post-snap reading of the defense has improved the most, right? Like his arm talent has always been there. He's always thrown a good deep ball. He throws the ball with plenty of zest, right? But I do think it's his processing that's improved the most. And he's playing at a really, really high level, man. I can't think of a guy that really has his skill set, especially if he has the scramble ability, which, as we mentioned, he doesn't right now. And, that knee brace it's the real deal. But I also think, as you mentioned, it puts him into a good spot with what he wants to do in that offense.
The Griz attacked the sidelines a bunch with the pass game, partly to mitigate Montana State's pass rush. Yet the Cats still brought a ton of pressure and got home, and that's why Ayat's knee is banged up. Do you expect similar or different?
Well, that's all the 4-2-5 gives you. If you watch anyone who runs the 4-2-5, that is what they give you, is a 5-yard out. And we saw in the first iteration of Cat Griz that the Griz attacked in the second half, especially just dink and dunk, just throw 5-yard outs all day and just march your way down the field. They're not going to give you a ton across the middle. They're not going to give you a ton in the box. The Griz obviously have to find a way to get Michael Wortham more involved. They have two of the best skill players in the country, in Eli Gilman and Michael Wortham. Those players better have a huge stamp on this game. Otherwise, Montana could be in trouble for that reason. And, in the first round, how many touches did Michael Wortham have?
4.
4 touches, 3 carries, and 1 catch?
Correct.
That's insane. That's got to triple, if not more. And Eli Gilman's got to be that dude, whether he's banged up or not, we know that he has the fortitude to fight through anything like that. So when you talk about Montana in that sense, that's what the 4-2-5 is effective at. Is it's not bend, don't break. It's bend, it's don't barely bend and don't break at all. The 4-2-5 keeps so much in front of you. We talk about it in the NFL, Colter, and that's what the Houston Texans run, right? And if you watch the Houston Texans, there is nothing to be had. There is no yards to be gotten because everything stays in front of you. There is no risk because there is no real blitz because they just rush forward, play with 7 out in the field, and you have numbers all day, and you just rally to tackle, and you're willing to bend a little bit, but 3-4 yards against a defense, or at this level, an offense like the Griz, 3 or 4 yards ain't going to get it done. So Montana State has a huge advantage just naturally with the scheme there, as far as, not giving up big plays, but Montana has been able to exploit big plays for the better part of, 2 months now.
What else about this are we focusing on, or what like who has a bigger fallout in this game? Like, who has more pressure on them, do you think?
Well, I think it's really well-rounded as far as everyone's going to take a dose of suck if they lose this game. I would say that Brent Vegan just, jumping on the PJs and traveling around looking at other jobs probably put himself in a pretty tough spot.
Hell, they don't even send him a PJ. He's flying for Horizon.
Maybe he's just a humble guy. He's just a North Dakotan, man.
What else do you need to know about Oregon State? If they don't come get you with a PJ, you can't go to Oregon State. No, it's no offense to those guys, but come on, man.
I mean, like we say, dude, Oregon State and Wazoo are not better jobs than Montana State. I don't even know why you'd even go over there. Why you'd even sniff it. Maybe it's a stepping stone. It's a job to get the next job. It's the job so that you can get Kansas State or whatever. But I still don't even think that. Regardless, I think that Bobby Hauck, we've talked about, if the Griz win this and go win the Natty, does Bobby Hauck retire? And we've kind of decided no. He loves this too much. He's obsessed with whatever. He's reached the mountaintop of this, one of the best jobs in college football. And we're thinking, maybe not. So Bobby Hauck is in this maybe for the long term, or, whatever that may be, his lineage with the Montana Grizzlies and where he stands, not only in the lexicon of the Mount Rushmores of coaches and figures at Montana, but just his ability to keep this job for as long as he wants, no matter what the result of Cat Griz is. I mean, Bobby Hauck's not getting fired anytime soon. That being said, Brent Vegan has put himself in a pretty interesting situation with, 1 foot out the door and, this, that, the other thing. I think he'd be crazy to not run it back next year with this team, with Lamson coming back, Adam Jones becoming a third-year junior, and a barrage of guys. I think Vegan, I've said it all year, would be nuts to go take a middling FBS job at this exact point. If you're not at Montana State, if you're at Idaho, where Idaho's at right now, or if you're at Sac State or something, then yeah, you do go look at those. But when you're at Montana State, I guess you always have to take the call. You always have to have the conversation, I guess. But Brent Vegan's put himself in a pretty interesting situation to go to Missoula, get that win, go interview for some jobs, have some turmoil on your team. And if you lose at home in the semis to a team that you handily beat, or, at least edged out, I think that puts Brent Vegan in a little bit of no man's land as far as, what is limbo and what does the next step look like for him and Montana State as a whole.
Sarah, what up, E?
What's going on? Man, those are some nice medals.
Yeah, man, these are hard to come by.
Yeah, well, I've got 2 of them.
Well, that's nothing like going to March Madness, though.
We did go to a national championship.
Okay, guys, whatever. Let's just get on the Montana party bus and head over to Press Box for lunch.
Yeah.
Nuanez now and Skyline Sports, covering Montana athletics and the Big Sky Conference better than anybody. Montana Party Bus and the Press Box are also proud supporters of Montana athletes.
Hey, cheers to you guys, man. Cheers to Montana. Cheers to chasing more championships.
Shine Beer Sanctuary is leading the charge when it comes to promoting beer culture in Montana. Located at the corner of Church and Main and downtown Bozeman, the locally owned and operated tap house and bottle shop has the best beer selection in the Treasure State. The bar has 32 rotating beers on tap with everything from Duvel to local ciders, gluten-free beers, and non-alcoholic options. The bottle shop has more than 400 beer offerings from all over the world, and Shine offers Cicerone-trained beer guides. Come enjoy beer heaven at Shine Beer Sanctuary in Bozeman.
Man. Do you think that's fair? Is that a fair?
It is fair. It is fair. I don't want to I don't want to manifest false emotions amongst our listeners, But I was just really thinking of like which fan base is going to melt down worse when the loss happens, because that's been the thing that's evolved the most since we started doing this. Is to the victor goes the spoils, and it used to be that the victor was the one that had the most emotional, visceral reaction, and now the loser is the one that has the most emotional, visceral reaction. But this last time around, when Montana lost at home, it wasn't that. Because of the way that they set the table for themselves, it's a heartbreaker to lose at home to your rival and get a lower seed than them in the playoffs. But when that lower seed is the 3 seed, and you're basically setting yourself up to win 2 home games and then get them back, get a chance to get revenge, the fallout is not nearly as great as what most other rivalry results would have been. And also, it made it so the Cats gloating for winning also didn't carry as much weight, because the Griz could say, well, yeah, you came and beat us on our home field, but we're going to see you again. And also, we have more wins and less losses than you. And we'll see who wins the Natty. And so then, like, what's the fallout of the loss? I just feel like if the Griz lose this game, one faction of the fan base will say, well, how the heck can Bobby Hauck not beat the Cats anymore? He's 2-6 since he came back. He's 2-6 in Bozeman. He's 7-8. That's one faction. Another faction, though, if there's any rational faction of the fan base, they'll say, okay, Montana went 13-2 this year. We went to the semifinals of the playoffs. Great year. We know exactly where we need to get to. The measuring stick is 197 miles down the road. That's it. Like, we know exactly what the measuring stick is. And we did this with, a brand new team with 50-something new faces on the roster. Let's bring back Ayat. Let's bring back Gilman. Let's bring back Brooks Davis. Let's run it back. Let's go. Whereas if you're the Cats and you have this golden opportunity to not only beat your rival twice in one season, twice in 1 month, but also to protect home field, but also to make the win in Missoula worth it, but also then to go win the national championship, that is a crazy amount of pressure, and it's also a crazy opportunity that you have to capitalize on. But if you lose, the bottom falls out of it. And I'm not saying your program's crater by any means. Montana State has such a strong foundation, and their program is so unbelievably rich. I mean, they lost all the greatest players in the history of their school, and they're sitting here knocking on the door, going back to the Natty. They've lost. Brett Vegan has lost the most decorated senior class in Montana State history twice, and he's gone back to the Natty twice. And he's one step away from going back a third time. That is crazy coaching, man. That's such a good job by him. But the disappointment if Montana State does not win on Saturday is just immense for the Bobcat nation. No question.
I think it's the biggest factor in the game. I think that
mitigating that exact feeling, mitigating the potential disappointment that could come, which is already brewing. It's already part of the narrative. Love him or hate him, it's one of the best coaching jobs Bobby Hauck's ever done, by saying, we're going to play these guys twice. We want to play these guys twice. And basically saying the loss to them doesn't matter because it's actually going to ignite us. And to tell his guys, he spun the whole narrative. I know it's pissed Cats fans off relentlessly over the last month. But this is the brilliance of Bobby Hauck being the maestro of his own crazy universe, right? He literally convinced half the state and his whole fan base that Montana State did not win because they outplayed them. They did not win because of a 7-minute drive at the end of the game. They only won because of a bad bounce that went to Caden Daller's hands and a blocked field goal that went off Zach Cruz's wrists. And if the football gods shine upon us, things will go differently. And he convinced the whole fan base of this. And then his team just believes, man, we didn't get outplayed. We just got unlucky. And they take that mentality into Bozeman. And again, I know that Cat fans think he's sick in the head for that. And if I'm a Cat fan, I agree with you. But what a brilliant job by him. Because his team now comes in, they're playing house money and nothing to lose, even though they're the number 3 seed, they're the Griz. That's uncharted territory for a Bobby Hauck football team.
Absolutely insane cinema, Colter, that we have going on here. I mean,
I hope it's not a blowout, man.
Everything's on the table, including one of the craziest blowouts you've ever seen.
Man, who has a better chance to blow out the other team?
Good Griz.
Is there a scenario where the Cats melt?
Yes.
And is there a scenario where the Griz melt? Yeah, it has to be.
Yes.
Has to be.
I'm just trying to make sure.
The last time the Griz won in Bozeman was when it was the corpse of Rob Ash's program. When they were giving up 90 points a game and couldn't tackle anybody. It was like the biggest, craziest fall off a cliff of any team we've ever covered. Like, Coach Hauck has done nothing in Bozeman since he returned. Here's a crazy take for you. Bobby Hauck's never beat a single Bobcat coach in Bozeman except Rob Ash.
Yeah, I know that. And
so I think that's a real narrative. That goes all the way back to 1.0 when Bobby Hauck was the king of the world in the Big Sky Conference.
All right. If anyone wants to get some good insight here, okay, I love this stuff. It's some of my favorite because very few people actually get to be 2 feet away from it. Is these coaches, they go talk before the game. They pretty much every coach, home, away, they talk to each other at the 50-yard line before the games. Sometimes it's a little bit tense. Sometimes it's obviously someone's kind of, playing the big brother, little brother game. When this last time, Brett Vegan and Bobby Hauck in Missoula, they talked for 8 minutes. It's a long time. Usually it's about 2, maybe 3, 4 if they know each other, 5 if they have a coaching tree connection or something. They talked for 8 or 9 minutes. And Bobby Hauck was giving him the double fingers and, ribbing him and touching him on the shoulder. And it was really interesting. And I cannot wait to see what they do this time. And I'll tweet it. I'll tell you what happens. I bet that it is a very short interaction. I also wouldn't be surprised if they don't talk. And that will be a real table setter for as much pressure as 2 grown men can feel, whether they believe it or not, no matter what they think of their team. When that ball's put on that tee and it's about to be kicked off, they're both going to be shaking to their core.
It's one of the most interesting mental tactics that Bobby Hauck does is the gregarious, good to see you, you've done a great job with your team thing before the game, and then afterwards, the smile and the big handshake and great job, coach. Your team played great, especially when they win all the time. After the last game, Bobby Hauck still tried to do that with Brett Vegan.
He sure did.
Brett Vegan didn't say shit to him.
Didn't say a word.
Looked at him, shook his hand, nodded, whatever Coach Hauck said, walked away.
That's facts.
It was quite the boss move. So I'm so interested to see how that interacts.
It's quite the boss move when you don't quite know yet that you have to go fight him again.
Right.
Yeah, it's a different thing, man. It's a different thing. This is and I don't know who will carry more confidence or who actually will be able to seize it. And I don't think that any of us will know, including them, until a moment arises, right? I don't think that before the game either of them will have enough confidence to guarantee it and enough of a foresight to know it's going to take big time players making big time plays. Like I said, this game has so much to it. It's really going to come down to who goes and takes it.
The Griz have, I think, 26 seniors. Not a ton of them that have played a bunch in this game, though. The Cats only have 7. But that's the last factor I want to touch on is that Adam Jones and Caden Dowler, I talked to both of them this week, and those guys are not seniors, but they talked about how the number one motivating factor is nothing to do with the rivalry or the rematch or even Nashville. It's that this is the last home game at Bobcat Stadium, period, no matter what happens for Paul Brott and Kenneth Hayden. And those 2 dudes have been in this game year in and year out. Those 2 dudes have been the heart and soul of Montana State. I mean, Kenneth Hayden is probably as stoked to be a Bobcat as any person that we've ever covered. Like he reposts every single story that we write, every picture, everything, man. He likes it or retweets it on Twitter, and he's always talking about it. He's like the ultimate spokesman for Bozeman High School and Montana State University. And we've seen that in these games play out so big time. Like those guys playing above their heads, but also guys on their team playing for them. So I just think that is the that and the environment that's going to be on hand in Bozeman at 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, I think those are the two things that can put Montana State over the top. So what do you think of the advantage that can give the Cats, and what do you think of just the challenge that faces the Griz from that element?
It's huge, man. I mean, I think Kenneth Iden is a really good example of someone that can turn the tides in this game. And, you know, you got his buddy Zach Cruz, who understands this thing pretty well. And you got some guys like that. It's very rare that it's not a Montana guy, right? Someone from around these parts that has lived this and breathed it and grown up in it, that doesn't affect this game in a way that tilts it, right? It's almost a guarantee that someone like that, and that's what makes this so great, right? I mean, Colter, when you just tell me 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, and the environment, the Bridgers are in the background, stadium's jumping, it's gonna be fucking lit, man. I mean, guys like Kenneth Iden are why this game exists. So I would be shocked if someone like Caden Dowler did not put their stamp on this game.
Brooks Nuanez, SkylineSportsMT.com. Come see us. Jordy's Cantina in Anaconda, 4 p.m. on Thursday. Our Bar, 4 p.m. on Friday. And ESPN College Game Day live from Town and Country Foods between 11 and 1 on Saturday. We'll see you intermittently in between all of those. Thanks to all of our great sponsors, and thanks to the people that are letting us take the coverage on the road. And thanks to you, Brooks, for chiming in as always. We'll see you later on today, but thanks for being here.
One thing is guaranteed. We're going to Nashville, baby.
Let's go. Can't wait.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.